Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss a poem written by A.K. Ramanujan, and the poem is Obituary, which he has written soon after the death of his father in 1971. In fact, Obituary is a piece of writing about a person's life that is printed in a newspaper soon after his death. This poem was written in a very sarcastic and ironic manner. It appears as if that the relationship between the poet with his father was not cordial and harmonious. Obituary by A.K. Ramanujan. Obituary by A.K. Ramanujan describes the aftermath of his father's death and all the things he left behind, physical and emotional. The poem begins with the speaker telling the reader that his father died. When he died, he left useless and meaningless things like dust and old papers. But there are also memories and rituals which are going to last a lifetime. In the second half of the poem, the speaker describes how he cremated his father and threw his leftover bones into the river. The poem ends with an emphasis on the importance of the rituals that came from his father and are now established part of the family life. The text of Obituary. Father, when he passed on, means my father, when he died, when he departed from this world, left dust on a table of papers. So, as a legacy, we found nothing but dust and old papers. Left debts and daughters. Now, the other legacies are debts and daughters. Daughters and debts are a liability. A bedwetting grandson named by the toss of a coin after him. Now, this is quite amusing that the name of the grandson was decided finally by the toss of a coin. A house that leans slowly through our growing years on a bent coconut tree in the yard. Now, the house was in a very pitiable and poor condition. That house in which the author and his family was residing gradually started slanting towards the coconut tree which was in the yard. Being the burning type, he burned properly at the cremation. Now, perhaps the poet is mocking his father. He is sarcastically and ironically describing the persona of his father. He says that my father was an angry man throughout his life. And now, when he is no more on his deathbed, and perhaps when he is being cremated, he is burning both from outside as well as from within, as before, easily and at both ends. So, from top to bottom, from head to toe, he is burned without much impediments, without much obstacles. Left his eye coins in the ashes that did not look one bit different. Now, perhaps in some southern part of area in India, there is a tradition of putting coins on a dead person's eye when they are being cremated. Now, those coins, perhaps which are put on the father's eye at the time of cremation, they remained intact. Several spinal discs. Now, the spinal disc of my father, they too were not burned properly. They are half burnt in a way, rough. Some burned to coal. Now, some bones of his, they are transformed. They are burned to coal. They are transformed to coal. For sons to pick gingerly and throw, as the priest said. Now, since the son, now the onus, the liability, the responsibility is now of the son. Now, the son had to take care of the leftover of his father. They had to pick the bones according to the advices of the priest, facing east, where three rivers met near the railway station. So, the liability of rituals and traditions now are on the soldiers of the sons. So they picked the bones, they picked the leftovers of the cremated father, and by turning their face towards the east and towards the Three Rivers meet near the railway station, they threw the leftover in the river. No long standing headstone with his full name. Now, since the poet belongs to a very humble background, therefore they did not have ample amount of money to erect memorials over the over the burial ground of his father, and two dates to hold in their parenthesis. Now they did not have enough money to donate or to gift people in the memory of his departed father. Everything he did not quite manage to do himself, like a Caesarean birth. Now, author says that the life of his father was a complete failure, and his birth was an accident as well, because he was not born as a normal child. His birth was as a Caesarean child in a very orthodox Brahmin family, Brahmin ghetto. And his death was equally dramatic and accidental because he died of a heart failure in the fruit market. But someone told me he got two lines in an inside column of a Madras newspaper. Now, author says that when after the death of his father, perhaps after many days after the death of his father, somebody intimated the poet, somebody told the poet that he came across two lines of obituary, perhaps published in some Madras newspaper, which is sold by the kilo after they become old. Exactly 4 weeks later, to street hawkers who sell it in turn to the small groceries. So finally, those newspapers, when they become old, they are being sold to grocery shops for fetching items like salt, coriander, and jaggery, where I buy salt, coriander, and jaggery in newspaper cones that I usually read. So this is how the poet recalls the memory of his father, that the life of my father was complete waste because we did not found any rich legacy from him. What we found was merely debts and liability, nothing substantive. So this is all about this poem. Thank you very much for watching this poem, which was very sarcastic and ironic.